Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're stepping off the beaten path and really getting to something fascinating. A beginner's guide from the Obukan Judo Dojo.
Yeah, and it's not just, a list of moves.
No, not at all. It's this whole structured approach to learning judo, mind, and body right from day one.
Exactly. What we've got are excerpts from their teacher's manual for the beginner course. It's a draft, actually, from May 31st, 2011.
Okay.
And its whole purpose is to create this consistent foundation for everyone starting out at Obukan, sort of the blueprint for judoka's first steps there.
Right, setting the stage. So our mission here is to kind of unpack what's in this curriculum.
hmm
Look at how they teach judo from scratch. The techniques, sure, but also the history, the etiquette, why that stuff matters right at the beginning.
And we'll touch on the Obukan Dojo's own story, too, which is pretty interesting in itself.
And there's a big emphasis here on safety, right? On learning properly from the start.
Huge emphasis. Preventing injury, making sure the skills develop correctly. So honestly, anyone curious about how martial arts, or really any skill, can be taught safely and effectively. There's a lot here.
Okay, let's dig in then. The manual itself, why did they even create it? It sounds like it came about for a specific reason.
It did, yeah. It basically addresses this issue they saw where different instructors might teach the beginner class slightly differently.
Ah, leading to gaps.
Exactly. Some students might move on to the main class missing certain fundamentals. So this manual was designed to fix that, ensure everyone gets that solid base.
Makes sense. Protects the student, protects the dojo standard too, I imagine.
Yeah, the manual actually mentions that how the beginner's progress reflects on the dojo overall. So getting those basics right is key.
And they really stress correctly, learning things, paying attention to these points to watch.
Those aren't just tips. They're about safety and good habits, avoiding common pitfalls early on.
So how is it structured? You mentioned the first few weeks are pretty detailed.
Yeah, the first 3 weeks especially. Week 1, it's quite a bit for 70
Oh,
minutes.
what do they cover?
Okay, so history and judo and Obukan's history, right up front. Then what judo actually is.
Wow. So philosophy from the get-go.
Absolutely. Then practical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Class schedule, they mentioned it's like 12 to 16 classes, usually how to wear the gi, naming the parts.
The jacket, pants, belt.
Right. And how to tie the belt. They spend a good 15 minutes just on wearing the gi and tying the belt.
I remember struggling with that. Okay, what else in week 1?
A big chunk, 20 minutes on reihu, etiquette, bowing, how to act in the dojo.
So respect is built in from the first session.
Definitely. And then it finishes with about 10 minutes of basic judo exercises, just getting people moving.
Okay, week 2,
Right.
does it ramp up?
It builds. They start with a review, asking about the history, what judo is, making sure it's stuck.
Like active recall? Good teaching.
Yeah. Then they review wearing the gi, even have students demonstrate it, more exercises. And then the big one for week 2, Ukemi.
Falling techniques.
It's exactly. Kohu Ukemi, the back fall, and Yogo Ukemi, the side fall. They start from lying down, then half sitting, then standing. And a quick intro to my Ukemi, the front fall, about 20 minutes dedicated just to falling safely.
Crucial stuff. You can't learn throws if you can't fall.
Precisely. It's fundamental for safety and confidence.
Week 3, more falling.
Yep, review gi wearing again, review reihu, more exercises. Then they review the Ukemi they've learned and add Zenpo Kaiten.
The forward roll.
Right, starting to get a bit more dynamic. And then week 3 is the first taste of Tachiwaza standing techniques.
Ah, okay.
Basic postures, how to grip. That's kumikata and Kuzushi, which is off-balancing, super important concept.
And they teach an actual throw.
They do. O Goshi, the major hip throw, your very first throw.
Wow. And groundwork, too.
Yep, introduction to Nawaza.
Yeah.
They cover Kisagatame, the scarf hold,
Okay.
Hatagatame shoulder hold, and Kamishiogatame upper four corner hold, plus Yokoshiogatame the side one. So a taste of both standing and ground techniques.
That is a packed 70 minutes for week 3. Throwing and pinning.
It's an introduction, getting them exposed to the different dimensions early.
And after week 3, how does it progress up to week, say, 16?
Well, the manual says the first 6 classes have this really strict curriculum,
Yeah.
like non-negotiable foundation.
Got it.
After that, it gets more flexible. They acknowledge people learn at different speeds.
Right.
And interestingly, it notes some might be ready for the main, more advanced class by lesson 12.
So there's structure, but also room for individual progress. That's smart.
Yeah, it seems quite balanced.
Okay, so that's the how, but the manual also explains the what is judo, how do they describe its appeal
They paint a really broad picture. People of all ages, all walks of life.
for different reasons.
Totally. Strength, health, mental discipline, just enjoyment, self-defense, competition, even wanting to teach it themselves someday. It covered a lot of motivations.
So it's versatile.
Yeah.
And technically, how do they define it?
As a martial art and a sport, derived from jiu-jitsu. It mentions the main technique categories. Nojiwaza, that's throws.
Right.
Newaza, groundwork. Shimawaza, chokes. Kansetsuwaza's joint locks. And even Atemiwaza's strikes.
Strikes in judo.
Well, they're part of judo's heritage from jiu-jitsu, but the manual makes it clear the beginner course really focuses on the throws and groundwork. The strikes aren't typically practiced in randori or competition.
Okay, that makes sense. But it's good to know the full context.
Yeah, and crucially, they reiterate, judo is more than just these techniques. There's a whole philosophy there.
Which leads us nicely into the history section. It starts with Jigoro Kano, the founder.
Right, born 1860. Japan's modernizing fast, traditional arts like jiu-jitsu are kind of fading.
And Kano saw something valuable in jiu-jitsu beyond just fighting, didn't he?
He really did.
Yeah.
It wasn't physically imposing, apparently, so he sought out jiu-jitsu partly for self-defense. But he realized the training built discipline, mental and physical, that applied to, well, everything.
He trained in different styles.
Oh yeah, several jiu-jitsu schools, like Tenjin Shinryu and, importantly, Kido-ryu. These heavily influenced what would become judo.
And he saw a need to adapt jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, to preserve its benefits but shift the focus. Less purely combat, more
Right.
holistic development, personal growth.
That's a big conceptual leap.
Huge. So, 1882, he starts teaching. Founds his school, the Kodokan,
Kodokan meaning?
a school for studying the way. And the way wasn't just about fighting. It was about, like, the principle of life itself.
Deep. And the name judo itself, how does that differ from jiu-jitsu?
Good question. So, ju means gentle or yielding. Jutsu means art or practice,
So jiu-jitsu is the art of gentleness.
or the art of yielding to wind, essentially. But Kano chose do instead of jutsu. Do means way or principle.
Ah, so judo is the way of gentleness.
Exactly. The principle of using yielding and flexibility not just physically, but as a life philosophy. It's a subtle but profound shift.
Okay, got it. And then the manual brings it local to the Obukan Dojo's own history. Starts way back.
Yeah, it traces roots to a Kido-ryu jiu-jitsu demo in Portland back in 1905. Then judo clubs forming in 1926, including the one that became Obukan,
And they named the first instructor.
Ni-sensei. And then a really key moment, 1932.
What happened then?
Dr. Jigoro Kano himself visits Oregon.
The founder. Wow.
Yeah, on a U.S. tour. The Portland Judo Club hosts him, and afterwards, Kano officially renames them the Obukan Judo Dojo.
Obukan. Does the name mean something specific?
It does. For Oregon, apparently early Japanese immigrants called it Oshu,
Okay.
but for martial training, and Kam for training hall or building.
Oregon Martial Training Hall. Nice.
And Kano didn't just visit once. He came back in 1938, gave a speech, even presented them with calligraphy of the name and judo principles.
That's incredible. A direct connection to the source.
Right. And the manual notes a young Jim Anki sensei, who becomes super important later, was actually in a photo from that 1938 visit.
Wow. But then World War II, that must have had an impact.
A huge one. The manual mentions the internment of Japanese Americans completely disrupted judo practice in the area, a really difficult period.
Yeah, a sobering part of the history, but it revived afterwards.
It did. Thanks initially to Muller Sensei in '52, and then Jim S. Arnchi Sensei took over in 1953.
The same Anji sensei from the photo?
The very same. And the manual really credits him with playing a massive role in judo's growth, not just locally in the Northwest, but nationally through the U.S. Judo Federation.
So, a real legacy there.
Definitely. And Obukan's been teaching continuously for over 50 years since that post-war revival. Quite a history.
It really is. Okay, so from that history, the manual shifts to fundamentals again. The judogi, the uniform.
Yep. Basic but important stuff. Keep it clean, keep it in good repair.
And the rule about not wearing it outside?
Strict rule, shows respect for the training space. They even mention folding it properly. Little details that matter.
And then back to Reihu etiquette, but in more detail this time.
Yeah, it links it back to judo's combat origins. Because the techniques can be dangerous, mutual respect is paramount for safe, effective training.
It sets the tone, cultivating a certain mindset.
Exactly. A modest, calm mind, focused on learning.
And bowing is the main expression of this.
It's the most visible part, yeah. Start and end with a bow. It's respect, acknowledgement. And the manual links it back to the bigger goal. Judo isn't just about technique. It's about self-improvement.
The bow reminds you of that.
Constantly. Humility, respect, focus.
They break down the types of bows.
Meticulously. Richare, the standing bow.
Right.
Specifics on posture, where your hands go on your thighs, the angle, like 30 degrees.
That precise.
Oh yeah, it's part of the discipline, attention to detail.
And the kneeling bow.
Zarya, again, step by step. How to get it to Seiza, the formal kneeling position, where your hands go on your thighs, that on the floor, how far apart, where to look.
Kneeling itself takes some practice.
It does. And the movement into and out of the bow is just as important as the bow itself. Deliberate, controlled.
And when do you bow? The manual lists specific times.
All the key moments. Entering and leaving the dojo space itself. Stepping on and off the mat. Greeting the sensei.
Okay.
During the formal bow in and bow out ceremonies at the start and end of class. And of course, before and after training with any partner.
So it's woven into the whole experience?
Completely. Fosters that constant awareness, that respect.
The ceremonies, bow in and bow out, they have specific commands.
Yes, in Japanese. Kyotsuke attention. Seiza kneel. Shumi ni rei bow to the front, the symbolic head of the dojo. Sensei ni rei bow to the teacher.
Okay.
And at the end, for bow out, they add mokuso, a brief meditation or quiet reflection. Then yam stop.
And there's an order for getting up?
Yeah, usually higher ranks rise first.
Yeah.
It's all part of that structured ritual, framing the practice.
Beyond bowing, what about general dojo rules?
Quite a comprehensive list. Respectful conduct, always. The principle of G to QA, mutual welfare and benefit.
What does that mean exactly?
Basically, that everyone benefits when everyone helps each other learn and train safely. It's core to judo philosophy.
Nice. What else?
Rules for visiting judoka, what to do if you're late, the no gi outside rule again, what to wear under the gi, importance of showing up regularly.
And hygiene seems like a big deal.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Trimmed fingernails and toenails, very important.
To avoid scratching partners.
Exactly. Clean gi, clean body, no jewelry, nothing hard that could injure someone, hair tied back if it's long, no makeup that could rub off, cover any cuts or wounds properly.
And don't train if you've got something contagious, right?
Definitely not. Skin infections, colds, etc. It's about protecting everyone. Basic respect and safety.
And if you do get injured,
stop immediately. Tell the sensei. There are protocols, especially if there's blood. And a strong recommendation. Never be alone in the dojo if you're hurt or feeling unwell.
That's responsible. Okay, so history, etiquette, rules. Then they get to the physical stuff, starting with Ukemi, the falling.
Yes, finally. And they state clearly, this is for safety.
We touched on this, but break down the back fall, Kuhu Ukemi again. How do they teach it?
Start seated. Key points. Tuck your chin to your chest, vital.
Protects the head.
Big time. Then as you roll back, slap the mat hard with your palms down, arms at about a 30-degree angle from your body. Not straight out, not tucked in.
Relaxed.
Relatively relaxed, yeah. The slap disperses the impact. They explicitly mention not to slap with straight, stiff arms.
Yeah.
And practice from sitting, then progress to standing.
Makes sense. Gradual progression, side fall, Yoku Ukemi.
Similar idea. Start lying on your side, practice the slap again, palm down, arm at about 30 degrees, looking at your slapping hand.
Okay.
Then from a squat, then standing. Step, slide, fall onto your side, slap. They mention common errors like legs being too far apart when initiating the fall, or keeping the bottom leg too straight.
Got it. And the front fall, Mei Ukemi.
Usually taught from kneeling first. The idea is to make a triangle with your hands and forehead. Bend your elbows to absorb the shock. Don't land on stiff arms or bend your wrists awkwardly. Keep your body straight and off the mat, chin tucked, eyes looking towards your fingertips.
Less common maybe, but still important.
Yeah, good for certain situations and transitions.
And the forward roll, Zenpu Kaiten.
That's the more dynamic one. From kneeling, then standing. Lead with the same side, hand and foot, like right hand, right foot forward.
Okay.
Roll diagonally across your back, over the shoulder, not straight over your head or spine. Use the arm to guide the roll. And crucially, you end the roll in a Yoku Ukemi position, slapping the mat.
So you finish safely on your side.
Exactly. And they stress starting from kneeling because it's tricky from standing, easy to hurt a shoulder if you mess it up. Common mistakes include rolling over the back of your hand or landing flat.
Right. Sounds like something you need to practice carefully.
Very carefully. Ukemi is the foundation for everything else.
Okay, so once you can fall safely, what's next? Posture and movement.
Exactly. Shizentai natural posture. Relaxed, balanced, ready to move any direction, feet shoulder width apart, basically.
The default stance.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Then there's Jigatai, the defensive posture.
Wider stance.
Yep, wider, lower center of gravity,
Yeah.
more stable, harder to move. But the manual warns, don't stay in it too long.
Why is that?
It makes you less mobile too.
Yeah.
It's for temporary defense, not a primary way to stand.
Got it. And movement principles.
Keep it smooth, minimize bouncing up and down, Don't crawl off your feet that throws you off balance. Keep that shoulder width base, generally.
And specific ways of stepping.
They introduce a yumiashi, which is just normal walking steps.
Yeah.
And sugiashi, the following footstep, one foot moves, the other slides up to maintain the stance. Used a lot for closing distance or moving sideways.
Okay.
And taisabaki, body control, or turning movements, pivoting, spinning smoothly and quickly. This is key for getting into position for throws, like footwork drills in other sports.
Yeah, positioning is everything. Are there drills for this?
Oh, yeah. For ayumiashi, walk forward, backward, sideways. First with eyes open, then try closing one eye. Really test your balance and spatial awareness.
That sounds tricky.
It is. And they even add doing it with Kuzushi, applying a little off-balancing force while moving, feeling your partner's rhythm through the hands.
So connecting movement with that core principle.
Right. And for Tsugiyashi, drills moving forward, sideways, diagonally, even in circles, building that agility.
Okay, so you can move. Now you need to connect with your partner, right? Gripping, kumikata.
Exactly, kumikata. Key points.
Yeah.
Get a strong grip, but don't clench so hard you're stiff. You need some flexibility.
Where do you grip?
Standard beginner grip is sleeve and lapel. One hand controls the sleeve near the elbow. The other grips the lapel on the opposite side of their chest.
Are there drills just for gripping?
Yep. Practicing getting right-hand grips, left-hand grips from Boshizentai and Jigatai. Trying different combinations, like both gripping the same side or you gripping left while they grip right. Getting comfortable with establishing and maintaining control.
Makes sense. And grips lead into Kuzushi, off-balancing.
The heart of judo, really. Kuzushi. They introduce Happo no Kuzushi, the 8 directions of off-balancing. Forward, backwards, sideways, corners.
Directions, okay.
The idea is to break their balance before you throw. And the manual stresses use minimal strength. It's about leverage and timing, not brute force. Use your arms and body position. Keep your feet relatively stable initially.
And the hands have different jobs.
Yes. Hikiti is the pulling hand, usually the sleeve grip. Tsuriti is the lifting guiding hand, usually the lapel grip. It mentions the pulling hand's palm should usually face upwards or inwards to be effective.
Little details matter. Is there a specific drill for feeling Kuzushi?
They mention a one-knee drill. Tori, the thrower, is on one knee. Yuke, receiver, stands. Tori practices just the Kuzushi part, the unbalancing, and maybe the very start of the throw. Kake, while Yuki practices their side fall. Yoko Ukemi. It isolates that feeling.
That sounds really useful for beginners, breaking it down.
Yeah, focusing on that specific sensation without the complexity of the full movement yet.
Okay, so we've got falling, posture, movement, gripping, off-balancing. Now, finally, the throws themselves, tachiwaza.
Right. Standing techniques.
Wow.
And the manual breaks a throwdown into 3 parts.
Which are?
Kuzushi, the off-balancing we just talked about. Tsukuri, the entry and positioning, getting yourself into the right spot. And Kake, the execution, the finish of the throw.
Kuzushi, Tsukuri, Kake. Got it. So what throws do they start with?
They categorize them. First, Tawaza, hand techniques. They detail Marote Sayanajib.
A two-handed shoulder throw.
Sort of, yeah. Both hands back carry throw is a more literal translation. Step-by-step guide, key points, and importantly, how Uke should help Tori learn it safely by controlling their fall.
Cooperation again.
Always. Then Ippon Sayanajib, one arm back carry. Similar entry, uses the same Kuzushi principle. Shows how techniques are related.
Okay, hand throws. What's next?
Koshiwaza hip throws. The big one here is O Goshi, major hip throw.
A classic.
Definitely. Again, detailed steps, points to watch like getting your hip deep enough under their center of gravity, turning correctly. Yuki's role is emphasized again.
Right. Hip throws need that good hip contact.
Essential. Then Ashiwaza foot or leg techniques.
Lots of these in judo.
Oh yeah. They covered Dishi Harai, the advancing foot sweep. Timing is critical here.
Sweeping the foot just as they step onto it.
Or just as they lift it. Coordination with your hands pulling is key. Then Hisa Guruma knee wheel, using your foot to block their knee shin as you turn and pull. They mention Yuke helping and a specific drill for this one.
Okay.
Then Osoto Gari major outer reaping, stepping past them and reaping their supporting leg from behind. Very common, very powerful. Detailed steps, typical mistakes listed, Yuke helps.
Sounds like a big throw.
It can be. And finally, Uchigari major inner reaping, stepping in and hooking their inner thigh calf area to reap the leg. Again, key points, common errors, Yuke assists.
So a good sampling of hand, hip, and foot techniques to start.
Exactly. Gives a feel for the different ways you can take someone down.
And that covers standing throws. What about groundwork, Nawasa?
Right. They focus on Osokomiwaza pinning techniques, holding your opponent down.
Keeping them there.
First one is Kesagatame, the scarf hold, like draping yourself across their chest, controlling the head in one arm.
Looks uncomfortable.
It can be. Steps, mistakes, like not controlling the head properly. Interestingly, it also mentions attacking from the bottom if someone tries it on you, and how you might transition into keisakatame after throwing someone with Osoto Gari.
Oh, so linking throws to groundwork.
Yeah, showing the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And they also describe 3 ways to escape keisakatame.
Yeah.
So it's not just about pinning, but also escaping pins.
That's really important. A two-way street.
Absolutely. Then they cover katagatame, the shoulder hold. Similar to kisa, but you trap their arm against their head neck using your own head and shoulder pressure.
Another strong pin.
Very strong. Again, steps, common errors, and how to attack with it from the top position provides a different angle of control.
So 2 solid pins to start with. Keisa and katagatame, plus the shihogatame variations mentioned earlier in week 3.
Right, the kami shiogatame, upper 4 corner,
Yeah.
and yoko shiogatame, side 4 corner, were introduced then too. Gives a good initial base for groundwork control.
Seems like a very thorough grounding in the basics. Is there anything else in the manual?
Well, it wraps up with a really useful judo glossary.
For all the Japanese terms.
Exactly. It even has some basic pronunciation guidance, and then lists loads of terms counting general judo words, technique names, parts of the gi.
So reinforcing the language they've been introducing all along.
Precisely. It highlights terms learned, like rei for bowing, ukemi for falling, kuzushi, nage for throw, nuwaza for groundwork, sensei tori, uke. All those key terms are in there, an essential reference for a beginner.
Yeah, definitely need that. Okay, so wrapping this up, looking back at this Obukan beginner's manual, what are the big takeaways?
Well, it's just incredibly comprehensive, isn't
Yeah.
it? And so thoughtfully structured. It's clear they believe judo education starts way before the first throw.
Right, the history, the etiquette, the safety through falling. That all comes first.
And then it builds logically.
Yeah.
Posture, movement, gripping, off-balancing.
Yeah.
Then the throws and groundwork. It's this step-by-step layering of skills.
It's like constant emphasis on respect and cooperation.
Absolutely. It shows a real commitment to developing not just technique, but also the judoka's mindset and character.
Yeah.
It's a gradual process, respecting that people learn differently, but ensuring everyone gets that solid, essential foundation.
It really gives you insight into how seriously they take foundational training. And like you said earlier, the principles here feel relevant beyond just judo.
Totally.
Yeah.
Anyone interested in how to teach or learn anything complex could learn from this structured approach. Martial arts pedagogy, preserving traditions, it touches on a lot.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if we approached learning other new things? A language, an instrument, a new job skill, with the same kind of deliberate focus, really focusing on the absolute fundamentals first, understanding the why behind it, the history, the etiquette or principles involved, building that solid base before rushing ahead.
That's a really powerful thought. Applying that judo mindset, that respect for the process, the foundational details, the Jita QA or mutual benefit aspect to other parts of life.
Yeah. Imagine the difference it could make.
It really could.
Yeah.
And, given Obukan's own rich story, maybe it's worth listeners looking into the judo history in their own towns or cities. You never know what fascinating local connections to this global art might be waiting to be discovered.
A great suggestion. There's often more history around us than we realize.